Welcome back, Commander.
Affirmative. Reporting. Agreed.
Using the lovely ability to, I guess, save all of our stuff, base configuration, units, etc., except the walls. I'm pretty sure I sold some of those. The map has decided to just keep what we previously had. So, similar to the Allied level 2 to level 4. And yeah, the audio got weird, and that's why there wasn't much music last time. It's a little strange seeing these missions not have credit screens, just like your basic "this is your score" outros. But for whatever reason, the devs just figured this would be a good idea.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of good ideas, we now have the option to build medium tanks, which is a blessing. We've already seen that ants are relatively good against just about anything. They have a really high attack, and the speed at which they do so is pretty good as well. We're actually given the opportunity to build fake buildings, but as you might imagine, there's actually no point against ants. It's not really like you're gonna fool them after all. Sadly, I can't say that there's much that's very effective to use when it comes to options available to the player. It's sort of one of those things where, as soon as you're given access to good tanks, like the medium tank, I don't think I ever really tried the light tank. Honestly, it's probably not worth it. But once you're given medium tanks, there's not much of a reason to use anything else. Oh, and I guess I should address it since we are 3 minutes into this. It's pretty cool that this is not just like a single level. Although, I mean, try telling that to myself 20 years ago.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Again, I always had trouble getting through. Doesn't help when you're there building, a ton of rangers only for them to explode upon contact with, well, just about anything.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Acknowledge.
And sure, I may have seen a couple videos here and there over like a decade ago, so I don't know the ins and outs of these missions as I'm playing them. What I do know is that, well, as the briefing stated, we have to evacuate civilians. Oh, and we also have to isolate the ants. After all, ants seem to have the same basic issue as your regular ants, I guess, in that they can't swim. And if you see ants that can swim, well, maybe these ones are just bigger, so they don't float as well. That's the excuse I'm using, anyways. Now, this isn't really explained, or at least, the briefing might mention it, but it's those gas clouds won't affect your units, so you don't ever have to worry about, say something like you send over some infantry and they'll all die. Or at least I don't recall that ever happening to my guys. The basic idea is that the gas prevents ants from spawning, or if they do spawn, they just die immediately. Oh, and I thought this was kind of cute that there is an actual text trigger for whenever the village goes under attack, which you can trigger. I was kind of hoping that there'd be, money or something in the church, but alas, it wasn't meant to be.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Awaiting order. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
So again, last mission we saw that I took the time to destroy a couple bridges. And again, the entire reason is because ants can't swim. So, like any sort of vehicle, they're limited to whatever ground they can actually walk over. This means that, destroying bridges just makes it that much easier to sort of herd them into better areas. And we can see that medium tanks don't do so poorly against ants. Still, you don't really want to have them go up 1-to-1. If you can flood the field with tanks, you're better off doing so. And unlike me, another thing you're better off doing is going after bridges really quickly. I kinda did the wrong thing. It's not so bad. But there's a bridge that's probably better to take out first rather than this one. Yeah, taking out that bridge on the south side's probably a better idea, all things considered. Oh, and on top of fire ants, there's these, super ants, guard ants. I think, if I remember correctly, there are basic ants, the brown ones, fire ants, which are the ones that obviously shoot fire, and then I believe these guard ants, which are effectively just better ants. Unfortunately for us, that a simple act of destroying a bridge won't reduce the ability of the AI to get more. So, yeah, your best bet is to, flood the area with as many medium tanks as you can, and use them to destroy buildings as quickly as you can. I'm not actually sure which unit is best to do so. Grenadiers can do it in a pinch, and I don't recall us having the ability... Well, maybe we can get artillery, but I don't have a radar dome, so... It would seem odd, though, to get medium tanks but not artillery, so... Maybe that's just an oversight on my part. After all, you're not really under too much pressure. There is obviously the civilians to protect, so you should always be doing that. But at least your base isn't coming under constant attack for 20 minutes. Yeah, left to their own devices, your tanks will sometimes just get overwhelmed by ants.
Affirmative.
There's a reason you should always, and I mean always, be building tanks here.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
If you don't have, like, at least 10, you're probably doing something wrong.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Or at least you're putting yourself at risk.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Reporting. Yes, sir. Reporting order. Agreed. Vehicle. Yes, sir. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
While it's not quite a big deal in this mission, you should probably get in the habit of sending something out with your ore trucks. Which, the more I'm looking at this, the more I think I did lose an ore truck.
Cancel.
Annoyingly.
Waiting order. Waiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Waiting order. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Oh, and if you ever find yourself playing multiplayer, that's how you get a large force across the water.
Affirmative.
Just load up with APCs and then exit the APCs.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Insufficient.
Not quite sure why there are barrels there, though.
Affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
That just seems like a bad idea.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
Mission accomplished.